Okay, thank you for joining us today on June 8th, 2023, 10 months out from the Great North American Eclipse on April 8th, 2024. This is a business and community preparedness webinar. I'm Sarah Ross from Norwalk Economic Development. I'll let everyone else here on the camera introduce themselves as well.
Matt Roach of Norwalk County News.
Kevin Razik of the Huron County Chamber of Commerce and Norwalk Area Visitors Bureau.
And I'm Brendan Roberts, the Deputy Environmental Health Director for Huron County Public Health.
So thank you for being here. While we're kind of going through our overview, if you can keep yourselves muted, and then if you have a question, feel free to chat that in. And then we can also ask you to unmute later and we can discuss those questions. We do want it to be interactive. And we'll post this again later for anyone who missed it. So with that, we'll jump right in. Here's a quick agenda for today. We'll keep it under an hour. Just want to level set, as always, on what exactly we're talking about. I have a few discussion points. So again, the audience today on the call is local businesses, many small businesses. And so I have kind of a little checklist of things you might want to think about for your business and decisions you might want to make leading up to this day. And then what Brendan's really going to go into is if we're looking at new opportunities, what is the safe and healthy and way to do that, whether that be camping or food sales, and that will help you pull that off better. It will help our residents who partner with you and any of our visitors. So then we'll go into Q&A and you guys can give us anything you want to hear about in our next webinar next month. So just to recap, the big day is on Monday, April 8th. Be on the lookout for what the weather might be doing then. The main event is about 3:12 to 3:17 in the afternoon. And the reason why we're prioritizing this in Norwalk is because we are on the center line of the path of totality. So this eclipse is traveling across the whole country, basically from Texas through Norwalk and then heading out the other end. But very few communities are right in this path of totality. So it's a different and highly sought after experience. Last month, which you can view the recording if you missed it, but we had an eclipse chaser come and tell us about some of the unique things that happen within the path of totality. And I kind of listed those there on the screen, the corona, the diamond ring, the Bailey's beads. People can't see those just everywhere. So we're expecting an influx of visitors, but also a cool experience for us here locally. And so that is why we are talking about it when it's 10 months away. I encourage you to do some looking around online to learn more about the eclipse. This is the state's official website, but there are a whole bunch of great resources out there. So here's my couple minutes of preparedness. And again, if you have anything you're thinking about, please feel free to chat it in and we can bounce it off the group. But there is a white paper published from a previous community on how can local businesses prepare for events. Number one, of course, what we're doing now, 10 months out, is start planning early. Number two is focus on the community in addition to eclipse. So focus on your neighbors and your employees and all of that. And then consult with eclipse experts to prepare for the unexpected or the unknown. So I'm gonna just go over a few key questions, but keep these things in mind. How can you use this extra advanced time you have to your advantage? Again, whether that just be in simple preparedness or if you're going for profitability. And then how might it impact us locally, but also the large influx of visitors that we're expecting. So I just wanted to put a quick picture up here from another community that we talked about last month, Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Again, we're saying it's kind of comparable to Norwalk, but here they are on the set of the Today Show, right in Kentucky on that day. So that's just a little context of different possibilities and opportunities. So these are things you might want to think about. How can my business take advantage of this for profitability? And the kind of 3 simple things within that area, you might have bigger, more creative ideas, but what are your hours? What should they be? What kind of advanced ordering or preparations do you need to make? And what kind of promotions are you doing? That could be actually advertising and marketing promotion, or it could be special offerings. Of course, one of the best tools in sales is scarcity and limited availability. This is a once in a lifetime availability to build a unique brand or idea off of. So start thinking about and preparing for doing your ordering, branding, and marketing of what different opportunities you might have to sell. But then again, also hours. So an afternoon event. When might people come in for that? When might they visit your business for that? How might that differ between the locals visiting your business and the tourists visiting your business? So think about your hours. The second is the basics, less about profitability, but more about preparedness. Where will people in and around your business park? Where will they stand at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Will they be eating? How will that impact you? Again, especially for your employees, your customers, and random visitors. Your employees might need a different parking situation that day, just to feel more prepared themselves, have less anxiety. So think about those things. And then do you have a communication backup plan? There might be cell phone service overload at some point leading up to or immediately following the event. So what other ways are you planning to share information across your team? Another key question you should start thinking about is, what do you want to do about glasses? Anyone who wants to witness this will need eye protection. Do you have glasses available? Do you want to give them out? Do you want to sell them? Glasses are a big concern and something you want to order and think about extra early. My last 2 things, and again, feel free to chat in if you want me to go into any more detail on all of these, but I want to also give Brendan plenty of time. What else could you gain in addition to sales? This is kind of the key reason I put that Today Show picture up. Could you gain media opportunities from this? Could you grow your email list? What are different things that your business could capitalize on besides just sales? And how can you prepare for those? Do you have the infrastructure in place to capitalize on those? And then finally, what's on your website and online presence? So for the next 10 months, people are going to be Googling the eclipse. They're going to be getting more specific with their questions. Where can I watch it? Where can I stay nearby? Where's the path of totality? Restaurants near the path of totality. Toilet paper store near the path of totality. Again, and the list goes on, but is it on your website at all? Is the date on your website? Is the name of the eclipse on your website? Is it on your social media? You know, you don't have to build out a whole new website, but if people are Googling, you know, think of even a 3-hour radius, people who find out about it that day. That morning when they go to send their kid to school and realize that school's closed, and now they start Googling it, what's on your website and how will they find you? So these are things, we'll send these slides, but I recommend with you, your leadership, your managers, whatever kind of business you are, have a few things planned out, whether you write them down, you discuss them in a team meeting, but don't wait until April 1st to start talking about it, because people will be confused and anxious. So that is my overview. I did want to throw this up again from another community. I will link their full slideshow recap, but they shared a little bit about being over prepared and how they felt they benefited from that. And so this is a little bit of what they expected versus what the reality they saw was. Again, it might not be exactly the same for Norwalk, but better to be over prepared than under prepared. So interesting there. Okay, so now I would like to turn it over to Brendan, again, to go over some of the safe and healthy ways to capitalize on some different opportunities. And please chat in any questions.
Sure, thank you. So we've gotten some interest in temporary food applications and a little bit of interest additionally in temporary campground applications. So people want to maybe open up some space that they have to allow people to come into camp, or they want to be able to set up somewhere maybe along the path of totality or close to it and sell food and things like that. Really, it's pretty simple. For the most part, we do temporary food applications are pretty common practice. We do a lot of those every year. It's just generally if you want to sell some sort of food item that would be outside of your home, that would also be maybe of the potentially hazardous kind, so it would maybe require refrigeration or something like that. Or if you're just selling baked goods, but it's not on your actual property, you're doing it somewhere else, you have a little booth or a tent set up that you're selling food there, you would pull a temporary application to do that. Again, it's a pretty quick and easy process. We get tons of applications for those every year. For the most part, you think of the Huron County Fair is a big one. So in addition to all the mobiles we get, we'll usually get about a dozen or so temporary applications where people will go and they'll set up around the fairgrounds and they'll be there for the week, and we review the application that they send in. There's a quick questionnaire. There's a diagram that's going to outline what the setup of what you're doing looks like in terms of where your equipment is and things like that. It'll show where your ability to wash your hands are, wash your dishes if you're going to do that. It's pretty simple. The review process does not usually take very long unless there's things missing and we kind of have to track you down and get questions answered that way. Same process pretty much holds true for the temporary campground application. It's a little bit more involved. It asks for a few more things just because there's some other items that kind of need to be taken into consideration when you're allowing people to camp on your property, or if you have someplace you're going to have to put them. Mainly clean water, what you're going to do with the sewage and the gray water disposal, electricity, the campground, the campsites need to be a certain dimension themselves. There needs to be access for emergency vehicles, numbered sites and things like that. So again, all that information is on the plan review application. They're not hard to find, not too difficult to fill out either. And of course, if you have questions with any of those applications, you can call us and we can walk you through that as best we can. So those would be the main two things that we're kind of anticipating would be the temporary campgrounds and the temporary food. So if you have any interest in doing those, feel free to reach out to us. If you have questions right now, obviously I can answer those as well, but that's the gist of it.
But are there advantages from a financial standpoint or an insurance standpoint to make sure that you are, have the proper licensing?
Sure. Again, going into insurance, that's kind of in the legal realm, so I don't want to give any sort of legal advice, but I would imagine it going through the proper steps, such as, you pulled a temporary application, it was reviewed by us, so you have that kind of oversight, would be beneficial in that regard. Again, just and we kind of look at things from worst case scenario, but from like an emergency access standpoint, if you do need to get, some sort of emergency vehicles into the campsite, if it wasn't reviewed by us and you don't have necessarily the layout set up properly, so there's no access lanes, the sites aren't properly marked or spaced, you could come in, I would imagine you could run into some issues that way, but that would probably be one of the things I would think of for sure.
Is there a too early to apply? Because we're talking 2024. Do they need to wait till next year to apply?
Yeah, definitely wait till next year. Don't turn in your applications now or anytime, super close or upcoming. The campground applications, it says on the form 15 days ahead of the event would be ideal. In this situation, we probably want it maybe a little bit sooner, just we are anticipating a good deal of these coming in. With the food applications, I would say the same thing. If you could get it in a month ahead of time, that would give us enough time to look through it and get everybody squared away. We're anticipating the possibility of putting a cap on the amount of temporaries that we do issue, just simply because our staff isn't that large. So we only have 3 individuals, so myself and 2 others, who are actually qualified to go out and do inspections of these types for the temporaries and the for the campgrounds and the food. So if we get to the point where, you know, we're maxed out of our capacity 2 to 3 days ahead of the event, we're gonna probably have to put a cap on it, but that's still being discussed. There's nothing that's definitive about that right now.
If somebody wants to sell food from their home, if they put a little stand out in front of their home, do they need a license for that?
Not necessarily. So there are what's called cottage food rules, and those apply to any sort of baked good that is not potentially hazardous. So these would be your cookies, brownies, certain types of honey is involved in there, certain types of candies. Things that don't require refrigeration, they're not considered potentially hazardous. If you are doing that from your property, you're selling it from your home directly to the consumer, there's no need for any sort of licensing. The caveat to that is when you step off of your property, you go somewhere else. So like, let's say you want to set up a little booth along the path of totality or close to it, that's when you would need to pull a license to do it.
Is this a good time to ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, on the temporary campground, you had mentioned not getting a temporary permit until next calendar year.
Mhm.
And most websites that are booking stays at campgrounds are doing it over 6 months to a year in advance.
Okay,
So how do we handle
talking about temporaries or are you talking about actual campgrounds?
temporary campgrounds? Yes.
Okay,
The eclipse chasers plan.
okay.
Is there a way to get, even a pre-approval of, yeah, here's the plan that you put together, you're good to go. And then within 2 months of the event, we'll actually do, whether it's site inspection or another application, just so that we could get pre-approved and locked in?
There's no pre-approval that we could necessarily give. That's pretty much just specific to the actual application itself. If you have basically a general idea of what the layout is going to be and you wanted to run that by us to see what it would look like that would work for us essentially, you could certainly do that. We have people do that frequently enough with that. So if you wanted to put that in, a little bit earlier, I don't see that there would necessarily be a problem with that. We just would not be able to give you a final approval that early out, so.
Okay.
Is it, but then there's no, is there a risk for them for advertising, marketing and booking without the approval?
Not necessarily, I wouldn't think. It's just, I guess it boils down to, the only thing I could think of is like if you put in your application super early and part of the application does ask for the number of sites. So it would be one of those things where I could see if you put down in your application, you turn it in, let's say you did turn it in, 4 months in advance, like in January next year, and just throwing a number out there, you applied for 30 sites. And then closer to the event, you're getting more and more demand for this. And now you want to bump up to 60 or whatever sites and double the size of your campground. That's going to be a pretty significant alteration to where we would have to essentially probably ask you to do a whole nother application just because we're changing things up so much. You're adding in a bunch of different logistical stuff, like we need more porta potties, or you need more ability to handle the sewage capacity or the clean water capacity and things of that nature. So yeah, I think as much as we'd like to plan far out in advance for these things, once you submit your application, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to make any serious alterations to it the closer we get to the event.
Because people always want to know how much. So how much are the fees for a food license?
Sure. So they do change year to year, so I can't quote you on what they're going to be next year. But currently for 2023, our temporary campground fee of a site of 50 sites or less is $78.04. There is if you're going over 50 sites, it's a variable rate, so I can't give you a quote on that. And then for the temporary food license, for this year is $123.44. But again, those do change year to year. They can go up, they can go down. I can't really give you a solid a quote on what they would be for April of next year.
Allison, well, Michael and Allison have both chatted something in, and we'll do our best to answer how we can today, but also we can do some follow-up work for the group, but Michael's interested in insurance requirements for food and transportation. I don't think we have an expert in that, do we?
Not today.
Yeah.
Not
No
today, but
insurance requirement from our end.
we can, so you don't have a minimum, like umbrella?
In terms of, we don't, for a temporary food license, we don't require any sort of insurance or anything like that, no. I don't know if that's something that they could pick up additionally just for their own peace of mind. Obviously, that's up to them, but we don't have a requirement for it.
Probably good practice to check.
Mhm.
And then Allison asked, any license required for event parking?
For just parking, no, there's no oversight from the health department that would be for parking.
And Allison, depending where you're asking about, I would suggest, depending the size of the property, at least alerting EMA, Huron County Emergency Management, that you're doing it for the same reasons as the temporary campground permit. You just want to be sure for yourself that emergency vehicles could get in and out. So while there may not be official oversight, it may be something you want to alert, your municipality and the EMA, so they're aware.
The health department, Tim Hollinger, the commissioner, had mentioned about the glasses, how important it is to make sure that you get it from a reputable place, because there's gonna be a lot of knockoff brands that are gonna say they work, and you wear them,
Yep.
and then it feels like your eyes are sand, shortly after.
Yes, solar retinopathy, I believe, is the term for that. I can't really get too much into the medicine about it. I'm not qualified to do that per se, but yeah, probably one of those things you do want to do some due diligence on, making sure if you're gonna get anything that you're gonna sell, whether obviously if it's food or something like that, for sure, but if you're gonna buy something such as glasses, you just want to double check, do your due diligence on that, making sure that they're the right kind and they're the real deal. So don't want anybody getting their eyes burned out.
Does anyone have other questions for the health department, any of the rest of us here, or just things you'd like to surface of what you're thinking about, or who we might have on the panel next month?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I was wondering, with the application for the camping for the health department, is the application pretty explicit on the requirements so that we could print off that prior to, so we could see what we could set up?
Yes, so if you, the second page of the application has a list of everything that we need to see on the drawings. Specific, I don't know if you want to pull it up, we can show it.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
But yeah, that's true with the food application as well. But it's only 2 pages, but yeah, it lists everything that we need.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So yeah,
Let me go back to the Zoom and share the screen. Sorry. If you want to explain how to navigate there.
sure. So this is just our website. It's just huroncohealth.com. And if you go to it'll take you to our main page there. And then up the top, all the way over on the right, drop down menus, you'll see for forms. And it's just the second one down, campgrounds and RV park forms. So if I can- you just download it here. So this is our application. This is the informational part here on the first page, and then right down here under item 4, it lists everything that we need to see on the drawings. So it's pretty self-explanatory.
Is this for is for all of Huron County or just Norwalk?
This would be for anywhere in Huron County.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Is there not a recommendation on these items? For instance, if you were going to have porta potties, is there not a recommendation per head count on what that would be?
Well, not necessarily. Yeah, you just, I mean, we don't provide the recommendation for that. I can look and see if there's a specific call out in the rules. I haven't pulled up, but I mean, they're pretty, for the temporary campgrounds, it's pretty extensive. But I can, if you want, I can try to find that and get back to you on it, but I don't have an exact recommendation for number at this point.
So for instance, if you're doing temporary campgrounds only to RVs and all the RVs have their own bathrooms, would you not need to have any public restrooms because it's all contained within the RV?
Yeah, that would be okay. It might be something to think about if you want to have a service come out and do some pumping. If you can, I don't, at this point, I don't know if they'd be able to. Circling back to the porta potties a little bit now, I think they might actually be all taken at this point. So if you haven't gotten any, that might be your next option, is just make sure they're RVs that are all self-contained, and obviously they're going to take it with them when they go. You know, you gotta make sure that nobody's kind of dumping it wherever they want to. They're taking it with them, and wherever they go after that, it's up to them. But just keep it in check while they're there. Actually, here I just found a there's quite a few lines on this thing, but if you go to the website for ODH's website, the Ohio Department of Health, they call out campgrounds, the laws and the rules. How many people were you planning on having? This is ballpark.
I'd say we were looking like 50 different sites. And then, yeah, obviously, you know, it's 4 to 6 per site, but mostly it was RV driven.
Right. So, recreation campgrounds and toilet facilities in accordance with the following minimum schedule. If you're doing between 31 and 60 sites, you want to have at least 30 to 60 sites, you want to have at least three to 5 porta potties. But again, if you're not doing that at this point, you're just doing the RVs, it wouldn't matter. They just take it, it'd all be self-contained. They would take it with them when they go.
We'll have Brendan get us the link for it's the Ohio laws and administrative rules.
Yeah, this is the campground rules.
It's
from the website.
And he'll get us the link and we'll send it in the follow-up email. Share. Okay, so the next question is, can someone share the specs from the glasses so that we can be sure we have approved? Yes, I don't have that on hand, but we'll send that in the follow-up. And we can send a link or two to sites that we've been told are reputable. Would you need a porta potty if you just allow parking on the day of the eclipse?
No, if you're just parking, no one's staying overnight, you do not need to have any sort of sewerage or porta potties available. It'd be nice to do if you want to do it, or you can try to get it done. Certainly not a requirement from us, but again, I think at this point, most of the services that provide those things, porta pots, have said they're already booked out. So I don't know how likely it is you'd be able to get them at this point.
Stacy from the library chatted in the glasses specs for the person who was asking. Any other questions, health department, business opportunity wise? Matt, would you like to just give a quick overview of the series that you're running?
Sure, yeah, so we started 52 weeks out, 52 weeks before the day of the eclipse. We started a weekly series every Monday, and so it'll be on a Monday. And we are less than 44 weeks now. It seems like we just started the series, now we're already 44. But we have Brian Leda, the AccuWeather meteorologist, and he focuses on astronomy things. He's each week sharing another detail or facet of eclipse. He's also an eclipse chaser himself, and he's going to be a future guest on these webinars. And so he's kind of sharing what people can expect and educating people along the way. And then we're also providing updates of things that are planning, with links to, we've covered meetings where this topic has been discussed. Our lead from the Huron County EMA has been really out in front of it, and with the chamber and NEDC, which is great because I think Huron County is ahead of the curve on a lot of other counties. When you're prepared, if people know what to expect, locally they're going to have a better experience. The visitors will have a better experience. Our first responders are preparing. We hope for the best, of course, but as Art said, you want to prepare for the worst case scenario. So at least you have a plan in place. So we're following those type of updates, and we have links to the previous webinar. We'll have a link to this webinar, so it's all there. So in February, someone say, maybe I want to sell some hot dogs or something in front of my house, or now you have that, you know where to go, and you don't have to bombard the health department.
That's okay. We're used to it.
Great. Well, for anyone who was registered at the Zoom link, we'll send a follow-up with a few of the questions that were here, the links that we mentioned. And then our next webinar is in a month. It's actually July 11th. We wanted to keep it on a weekday. So July 11th, same thing, a quick lunch and learn. So mark your calendars. You can register now. And we look forward to working with you guys off webinar time as well, to make this an awesome Monday next year. Thank you so much. Let us all know if you have any questions.